Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
You've come to the best station for hot news and sizzling commentary.
Well, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different on the show. I'm going to be interviewing 3 different people who have experienced the coronavirus and, of course, survived. Some of them to a lesser extent, some of them to a more difficult extent. But I think that with all of the coronavirus talk that's going on and the talk about the lockdowns and the economy and people committing suicide and people losing their businesses, we've lost a little bit the empathy for the people who actually are going through it. And so I wanted to bring that back because there are both sides to this equation, to this question of coronavirus, lockdowns or no, masks or no, this or that. I have my stance, and you all know it. I wear my mask. I am listening to the rules of the lockdown, even though I'm unhappy about them both. And I think that I should be the only one, not I, but, people who are worried. We should stay home and let the younger people get on with life and not close the economy. When we did the first lockdown, I was all for it. But I think a lot of Israelis have changed their mind during the second one. In any case, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Also, okay, just a second now. Something's a little bit wrong here. Okay. Also, on the show, we are going to be opening up the lines in case you want to call and you want to ask what it's like to these people, how they experienced it. You'll feel free to do so. Our numbers are on our homepage at israelnewstalkradio.com. We're going to be right back, everybody. Don't go anywhere.
Now I'm making Aliyah today. I was born in the USA. Now I'm making Aliyah today. I was born in the USA. Now I'm booking my ticket on El Al today.
Hi, this is Lenny Solomon of Schlock Rock, the greatest Jewish rock band in the world. Hope you enjoy our songs. Come on over and visit us at schlockrock.com.
Always challenging the status quo. Hello, I'm Rod Bryant on Beyond the Matrix here at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. I want to encourage you to listen each week, every Wednesday at the same time, for an amazing show that will challenge you, inform you, and inspire. News, views, and wisdom for the nations here on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Don't forget, Beyond the Matrix every week, Wednesday, here on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
All right, we're back here at the Tamar Yonah Show on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, and I'm going to be interviewing people today who actually had and have gone through the coronavirus. Now, unfortunately, I am not able to get my first guest. She is healthy and well, thank God. I understand she does have a few after effects from it, but we're trying to get her. She's in the United States, and so far we have been unable to reach her, so I'm hoping that she's going to call in. We've left a message for her. And in the meantime, this is live radio, and I'm just not prepared. I thought I was going to have my guest on. So I'm going to share with you in the meantime something that has nothing to do with the coronavirus, but I just thought it was kind of beautiful. And I want to read it to you if I can find it here. This is let me see if I can find it here. Okay, I think that this is it. This is a letter from Ronald Reagan, former U.S. President Ronald Reagan, to his son, Mike. This was written, it says here, in June of 1971. It has nothing to do with coronavirus. It's just a beautiful letter that a father, wrote to his son that I thought, I want to maybe read that out over the air one time. And since I don't have my guest right now, I guess I'll just do it, right? Okay, so he writes here, you've heard of all the jokes that have been rousted around by all the, quote, unhappy marrieds, unquote, and cynics. Now, in case no one has suggested, there is another viewpoint. You have entered into the most meaningful relationship there is in all human life. It can be whatever you decide to make it. Okay, maybe this is my guest. Hang on. Israel News Talk Radio. Hi, one moment. Okay, so I believe that we have our guest on with us. I'm going to stop there, and maybe if we have time, I'll read it afterwards. Do we have Katya with us? Katya?
Yeah, hi, honey. How are you?
Good to have you
I shouldn't
on.
call you that on the line. I'm so sorry. Hi, hello, Tamar.
It's wonderful to have you on. So I'm not giving out your last name because I don't know if people want to really be identified. Sometimes people have a
fine.
stigma.
I prefer that too.
Okay. So you had come on a trip from the United States to Israel to visit a family member here, and somehow you got the coronavirus. And if you can, I'd like you just to share with our listeners what it was like, what you experienced, if there's any after effects, et cetera, et cetera.
Of course. I believe that I contacted it on the flight from Newark to Tel Aviv. I spent about 2 weeks having a wonderful time with my family in Israel, and then I became really, really sick. It was double pneumonia. My daughter took me to Shaare Tzedek Hospital where I was diagnosed with double pneumonia, and then they gave me a COVID test, and I went back to her home and got a call about 2 days later that it was positive. So at which point I was really in bad shape, meaning coughing all the time, having difficulty catching my breath, wheezing, couldn't sleep, coughing up blood as well, to be more graphic, very weak. So then I was sent to Tel Aviv, and I was given a cocktail of antibiotics, which helped within about 2 or 3 days, and at which point then I entered a Corona hotel.
Now, when you first got to Tel Aviv, were you taken away by ambulance, or how did you get there from your sickbed?
An ambulance came to my daughter's home, and I was the only person in it, and it was driven by somebody who, of course, was all suited up. He looked like an astronaut. I mean, at the time, now we're used to seeing people like that, but at the time, I believe I was number 967. That was the number of the cases in Israel at the time. Of course, at this point, that seems like it's a small number. So it was more at the beginning. So I have to tell you, Tamar, I feel that the treatment that I received medically and psychologically from nurses and doctors was excellent.
Okay, and so can you share your age with our audience just so they, can get a better idea of how it might affect them?
Yeah, well, I'm over 60, that's all I'll say.
Okay, you're over 60, but I have to tell everybody, I know Katya, and she's in extremely good shape. So don't think that, I'm in good shape, I can, some people do. They have very little symptoms, if any, but it doesn't matter all the time whether you're in shape. So you were taken to Tel Aviv there by some spacemen in an ambulance, and then there...
Yeah, that was scary.
When did you get the test? When did you find out that you had corona?
On a Sunday. I was in the hospital on Thursday, and on Sunday we got a call, and then, of course, at that time also interviewed, meaning not interviewed, but questioned by Mizrat HaBriyut, by the health ministry, asking me to trace all of my whereabouts in a very detailed way. I had been surprisingly at a party for Purim where there were over 80 people, and I was serving dessert because I had made it to each individual, and all of those people had to be notified, and as far as I know, nobody caught it from me at that time. The other amazing thing is that none of my family members caught it, even my daughter, who was taking care of me, and I was coughing all over the place. So that is a mystery to me, total mystery, how none of the people that I was in touch with, including my daughter who was driving me in the car to the hospital and back, sitting in a car, coughing. So that, in a sense, is a huge question mark as well.
Right. And do you have any after effects from the coronavirus?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Definitely. Well, first of all, I was in a Corona hotel facility for those who were moderately ill. That means people who were symptomatic. And that meant that I was in a room. Of course, I have to say, I'm not going to complain about the room because it was a very, very comfortable, well-appointed room with a nice view of the Mediterranean Sea. So even though people would say, oh, look at that, you had such a nice room, but you weren't allowed to leave that room. So you're in the room 24/7. All your meals are brought to the door, but you're by yourself. And especially for a 3-day Yontiv, I spent Passover, Pesach, the Seder and everything in the room by myself. So it did create a sense of really having to look into the inner resources of your resilience and find a daily schedule in order, because you're just not going to watch TV all day. In fact, I wouldn't allow myself to put the television on until about 9 o'clock in the evening, and then that was my treat. But they would check in on you 3 times a day, a doctor and a nurse, making sure your vitals are fine, and taking notes. As far as you asked me the question about the long-term effects, so I was in this place for 19 days, and then afterwards you had to test negative twice. My daughter picked me up, but I was still way too weak to fly out. I did notice brain fog for weeks. I found myself unable to focus, and even afterwards, not to walk that much. And I'm a person who is used to going to daily exercise, daily aerobic exercise and workouts. And I found that it was really difficult to walk from even to the end of the driveway of my home. At this point, I feel totally recovered, though. Obviously, thank God. I shouldn't say obviously, but I'm very grateful, thank God.
But that's like five months later, 6 months later.
Sure.
Can you tell our listeners, did you have to pay for the hotel that you were in, that you got all the food and the room board, everything?
Such a good question that you're asking. I'm an Israeli citizen, so I still pay into the health insurance. So no, I didn't have to. And but if I had not been an Israeli citizen, I did find out that my health insurance from the United States would have covered it as well. Mm-hmm. Maybe not totally, but would have covered it.
Okay, so everybody who is an Israeli citizen, of course, has health insurance. And so basically it's free for all of the Israeli citizens that need to go to one of these Corona hotels.
That's correct.
That's really amazing, too.
And I want to say that some people would complain, because you'll always find people complaining because perhaps the cuisine wasn't exactly seasoned the way they would like it at home. But really, objectively, the care it couldn't have been better. And I found out from speaking to counterparts in the United States in the medical profession that people were not getting this really kind of treatment in the United States at the same period of time in which I was being treated.
Katja?
I was also told that I probably, had I been in the United States with the double pneumonia and the wheezing and the inability to breathe, would have been put on a ventilator. And I wasn't in Israel. And I was told that that was for the best, because had I been put onto a ventilator in the United States, which would have been more of a standard procedure, it would have been more risky.
Wow. Katya,
So I'm
in the
thankful
10
for the
seconds that we
treatment I
have left,
received.
would you tell people this is something serious to be very careful, or would you tell them it's really not that bad?
Oh, goodness. I would say that it's something serious to be very careful. A friend of mine, a rabbi in New York, he may be known to you or your viewers,
Katya, we
Rabbi
only have 10
Chaim Dahan
seconds.
Tatzal, died at 54 in Brooklyn from it.
Oy. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show with us, Katya. Refuah Shlema Mihra, you should have full and speedy recovery. You say you've already feel that way, and I hope it stays that way, that you feel well. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Tamar.
Shalom, everybody. Making a difference often takes just one moment and one person at a time. I am Orly Benny Davis, your show host on Israel News Talk Radios from Jerusalem with Love. You'll be hearing people talking about politics, religion, social issues, and making a better tomorrow. Join me, Orly Benny Davis, for God and Country. From Jerusalem with Love.
Wednesdays on Israel News Talk Radio.
Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Did you know this psalm and many others were composed by a Jewish shepherd and musician who later became a king? Would you like to know some of the inner meanings of psalms to help you connect with God and strengthen your soul? An exciting and easy-to-read book is now available which will help you do just that. Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone, available on Kindle, Audible, and Amazon.com. Software for the Soul.
All right, we're back here at the Tamar Yonah Show on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. And today we're talking with people who have actually had the coronavirus. And we're asking them to share their experience with us. Was it hard? Was it easy? Some people feel very, very little, and some people are hit extremely hard, and God forbid some people even succumb. We just had a famous actor here in Israel, Yehuda Barkan, very beloved and famous actor here who died from the coronavirus just over the weekend. He's 75 years old. Got Zichrono Livracha. His memory should be for a blessing. We're going to speak now with Lenny Solomon. He's a good buddy of mine. He's also the head of Shlock Rock. That's a great rock band that plays Jewish music. He's an amazing guy. And I was so shocked when he wrote me that, Tamar, I just had the coronavirus. So, saying that, Lenny, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Tamar. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you here. I'm so glad you're okay. So, describe to us what it was like.
Okay, so basically I'll give you the rundown. On September 14th, I visited somebody in the hospital. 3 days later, he tested positive for corona. 4 days after that, I started feeling symptoms. That was on September 21st. The symptoms were fever, chills, and a cough. I went for a test on the 22nd. It came back positive on September 24th. So from September 21st already, I was in isolation, where I stayed in isolation for 2 weeks. Now, during that entire time, I had fever, chills, and a cough on and off. That's what I had. It was basically a flu for 6 to 8 days. I took Tylenol every 8 hours. My doctor said to me, Lenny, there's no drugs for this. There's no vaccine for this. Just take Tylenol every 8 hours. And I did. That's what I did. I even started taking zinc and vitamin D a little bit. But other than that, it was fever, chills, and a cough. And it went away around 8 days later, not as fast as President Trump. They must have given President Trump a cocktail, a super cocktail, where he got better in 3 days. But for me, it took 8 days, and I didn't take any medication other than Tylenol. And then I got the phone call 14 days after I was in isolation by Maccabi. They asked me 3 questions. Have you had fever? Have you had any diarrhea or vomiting in the last 72 hours? The answer was no. They sent me a letter of shechrur, which is a release from my isolation, and that was 20 days ago. So since then, I feel fine. I have a little bit of a lingering cough every once in a while, but it's basically gone away. I never lost my sense of taste. I never lost my sense of smell. I guess you might say it was a mild case of corona. You might say that, but I don't know if it was mild. I think, it was like a flu for me. And that's
and
really...
And where did you spend it? Did you have to go to a hotel, a Corona hotel, or were you...
No, I isolated in my house.
And did anybody else
in your
in your house
family
get it?
took the Corona test after I tested positive, and everybody tested negative. Nobody had it.
Thank God. That's really good to know. Was everybody afraid to go near you when you were sick?
Yeah, well, they all did go. They didn't go near me.
So, what did were you throwing up during this, or it didn't affect your stomach at all?
I never threw up. I never threw up. And I did have, diarrhea once. But
so you didn't need help from someone?
It's not really just a flu of fever and chills and a cough.
It's
and
not
the
like
fever
you
never really got higher than 100. It was like a 99. That type of thing.
So you didn't need anybody to hold your head over the toilet or something like that?
No,
right?
no.
Because, when I'm sick, I like to have my feet rubbed or a cold compress on my head, by my husband, or when I was little by my mom.
Well, it was lonely, I will tell you that. And by the time the 14 days were over, I was going out of my brain. I'll tell you an interesting story, just as an aside. I went into Ben Yehuda Street on Friday, which is the famous street mall in center of Jerusalem, and I went into a music store to buy a harmonica for somebody as a present, and I knocked on the door. The guy opened up the door. He said to me, I'm not really allowed to be open, but I can't afford to be closed, and if the police come in, they're going to give me a 5,000 shekel fine. And he said, but I can't afford to stay closed because they're killing us. The businesses, they're killing the businesses. So I would like to say that I know that a lot of people have died, and it's a very serious illness, and you have to take it seriously. But I just want to say that you have to open up the country. At this point, you have to slowly open up the country. You cannot keep strangling people's livelihoods, and it's incredibly depressing to be shut down and not being able to work and not being able to live. And I think that you have to take care of yourself. You have to social distance, you have to wear a mask, but you also have to live. And that's what I wanted to kind of say. And I'm a little bit disappointed that we're going so slowly.
And do you believe, or have you been told by your doctors that you're immune now?
The rumor is 3 months, 3 to 4 months.
What does that mean?
Immune.
3 to 4 months,
and
you'll
then after
be
that,
immune?
you can get it again.
And after that, you can get it again. Huh. Wow. Okay. Do you know anybody else in your circle who has gotten it, that has had different experiences?
That has had what? There's had serious more than me?
Different experiences than you.
Yes. I know a bunch of people that have had it. And some people, have had it very badly where they, one person said to me they felt like death, whatever that means. They felt very sick. And it took, and they're still recovering. It's a serious illness. Look, there's no question it's a serious illness. And I don't believe anybody has any answers yet, which is also very frustrating. They keep saying they're working on a vaccine. You can't keep us locked down for another year. I don't think, which is what people are saying. Maybe by March it'll be a year since this thing started, February, March. And I think we have to be back to normal by then.
Right. And if they have a vaccine, what stance do you take? Would you take it, or would you not want to take it?
I don't know. I go back and forth because I've seen so many. YouTube things about how doctors are saying that it changes your DNA and then they're going to control you through the 5G. I don't know if this is just fear. There's a lot of fear going around. That's what I do see. But I don't know if I would take the vaccine or not. Like, I just got a call to take a flu vaccine tomorrow, which I'm going to take, the flu shot. I've taken it before. but also it makes you think twice, which is ridiculous because I grew up taking that. You grew up, you take your measles shot, you take your chicken pox, whatever, your flu, your polio, we all grew up with that stuff. Now.
But the difference, Lenny, is that those vaccines, I believe, I could be wrong. If somebody knows a different answer, please let me know. But I believe that those vaccines had years of testing and years of experience. My mother always taught me, try not to take any drug at all, any medicines, pills, vaccines, anything that hasn't already been used already for about 10 or 20 years, so you can see if there's any effects of it. Because she remembers in the 60s they were giving pregnant women some type of medicine to take away their nausea, and then their daughters were born. Some of them were born deformed or defected, and then others that were not born deformed, when they were able to, at the age to be able to give birth, they were sterile. They found out that drug made their daughters sterile. So, there's sometimes we can't tell what a vaccine or a medicine or a drug can do until 10, 20 years later.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very, very tough thing. And I just, when I went to the nurse last year and told her my concerns, she said the flu vaccine just makes you weak for 3 days and then it stops you from getting the flu, which is what I find. I find that when I take a flu vaccine, you kind of get sick for a couple of days or you feel weak, and then you don't get the flu all season. So is it worth it, or do you take the gamble of not having the flu vaccine and then just you get a flu, or I don't know. But I don't know about the corona vaccine. I would hope that they were honest people, and I would hope.
Well, you know what? Everybody has to ask their own health professional what they should be doing. And the ICAR, as we say, the main thing is that you should be healthy and safe. And for all of you, your family, your community, and everyone who's listening, and the entire world. Lenny, what you want to say? One last word. You have a few seconds if you want to leave us with
No,
something.
that's basically it. I mean, I just want to wish everybody that they stay safe and we can get rid of it. Get over this. We have to get over this. It's really frustrating. I'm a musician. Obviously, there is no concerts for me. I haven't had any live concerts. I mean, every concert that I'm doing is from my office over a webcam, which is okay, but it's not the same as getting on the road and traveling and going to people's communities. I mean, I'm not sure if that will ever happen again. It doesn't seem like for a while that we're going to have stuff. And Broadway is shut down till summer of 2021, and every entertainment is basically on hold.
Well, we're living through a difficult period right now. None of us alive today has ever experienced anything like this before. Maybe if you were living in Eastern Asia during the SARS or something, but otherwise, we don't have much experience at all. So wash your hands, everybody. Keep your social distancing and be safe and healthy. Lenny, thank you.
My pleasure, and it's great to talk to you.
We'll be right back.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
This is Shai Ben-Tekoa, and each week I'll be webcasting to you from Judea, origin of the word Jew, a people besieged and beleaguered in every generation. Nazi Germany's but a memory, but in its place the world invented the phantom Palestinians as this generation's internationally authorized Jew killers. Tune in for a different slant on life in Israel, Phantom Nation, every Monday.
Hi, I'm Rabbi David Aaron. The soul basics are the most profound, the most essential, and yet often the most neglected in our education. Join me for Soul Talk on Israel's News Talk Radio and discover the secrets to love, spiritual growth, and personal power.
How did a nice Jewish girl from Delaware end up living in Israel? Shalom, I'm Natalie Sapinski. Join me on my show, Returning Home. Meet different people who have moved to Israel. Hear their personal stories, their highs, their lows, and everything in between. Each week, we talk to experts on immigration and the process of moving to Israel. Listen to Returning Home every Thursday, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
All right, we're back here at the Tamar, Yonah Show on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, and we're talking today with three different people who have already gone through the coronavirus, and we're asking them, what was it like? What did they experience? Do they have any after effects from it as well? Have they learned anything? Do they want to tell the world of anything? And our next guest is named Daniela. Daniela is an Israeli citizen. She also recently went through having the coronavirus. So welcome to the show, Daniela.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
It's really good to have you on. So why don't you tell us, number one, how you think you might have gotten the coronavirus?
I have no idea how I got it. I just had a cold one day, runny nose, and I thought it was maybe because part of my house has air conditioning, the other part doesn't. The next day, when I started coughing, though, I thought, you know what, maybe I should do the test just in case. But, I was sure it's not going to happen to me. And then I got the result, and when I saw the positive result on my phone, my first thought was, am I going to die? Because, we hear so many frightening messages and everything. And hopefully I'm still here today. I don't have any side effect or after effect. I did lose my sense of taste and smell, but just for like 1 or 2 days. What I had mostly was a lot of pain on my upper back. Like it felt like being squeezed from inside. It was very painful, but I found out that hot showers really help, and ibuprofen. And, at one time I had 10 hours of pain, like back and forth, up and down, but it was really, really, it was really long. It was like a flu, but much, much worse, let's say.
So how did you find out? Like, how did you get the test?
So I did the test, and 24 hours later, I got a text message saying that, that I am positive.
Yeah, but
so
did somebody come to your house and give you the test, or did you have to go somewhere?
Well, I was told that if somebody comes to my house, it's going to take a few days, and then the result will be a few days, and then it would be right during the holidays of Rosh Hashanah, during 2 days, that we can't contact anyone. And I thought that if I have it, I will not be able to let people know that they've been in contact with me, and that might be, doing more and more people that would be sick without knowing and all that. So I thought that it would be better for me to go to town and to get the test over there. And that's a fast result within 24 hours.
Okay, so you went to town, and did you drive? You took the bus? What?
No, I couldn't drive, and I didn't want to take a taxi, and I just decided to sit all the way to the back of the bus with the window open. That's what I did. And when we took the test, the test is outside in the street, and I just made sure not to get close to no one.
Were you coughing when you were on the bus, and did people look at you if you were?
No, I wasn't coughing at that time. I had a cold, and I was coughing mostly at night. In the day, I wasn't coughing in the day yet.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so you said that when you learned that you had the coronavirus, you thought that you were going to die. What was going through your head?
That was the first thought that came to my head, and I asked my husband, and he's like, no, don't worry. And he proceeded to move out of the bedroom. And the first 2 or 3 days, I really spent thinking only positive thoughts and filtering any negative emotion, anything that I heard in the news, anything frightening. I spent like 2 or 3 days just pushing all this away from my mind and focusing on positive and how grateful I am to be in my situation where I have a loving husband behind the door, and I have children that worry for me, and I have a mother that calls me every day to check on me, and I'm in my own house, not in a hospital. And every single little thing that I could think that would make me feel happy and grateful for my situation, this is what I really nursed.
Wow. So instead of like making deals with God, like, God, if you get me through this, I'll do this or that, you're just thinking positive thoughts. And
well, exactly. And I felt that this, experience of me being physically alone in my bedroom was really a very positive experience and useful, and gave me the tools that I could connect to God, because At the end of the day, it was just me and God, me and him. Nobody else was in a room with us. So I really took advantage of my situation to think of all the memories of my children when they were small, and every gift, small or big, that I received within the course of my life, and every beautiful place that I went to, and just kept cheering myself up and thinking how lucky I am, and, you know, how happy I am, and I'm okay, and I'm all right, and pushing anything negative and just focus on the good, listening to good music, and, you know, learning Torah as much as I could, just to be there. And I can't say really enjoy, because when you have pain, you can't really enjoy. But I really wanted to make this a useful experience.
So you said this was like the flu, but worse. You know, I've had the flu before, and it is horrible, but it's usually the stomach flu. You're throwing up, you're nauseous, you're writhing in pain, you've got fever, you've got chills. I mean, that's pretty bad. What was worse about the corona?
Well, what I thought is the pain that I'm getting comes from God, and God is good, and He only gives me good. And even though it's painful, and at the moment it feels bad, ultimately it's for good, it's for a greater good, and it's something used as a connection to God. And that was really the good part of it.
And what about needing things from your family, like you know, honey, I need some aspirin, or honey, I need this, or honey, and they were afraid to go into your room. How did that work out?
No one came into my room. I had a chair on the other side of my bedroom door. I would call my husband on the phone, unless, of course, when it was, you know, Hag holiday, I would just call him from the door. But I would call the phone and ask him, I need such and such. He would put everything on the chair. Then I would my gloves and my mask and quickly take what I need. And that's how we did for the whole 2 weeks. Yes.
And did you have fever?
I had fever off and on, yes.
Off and on. And then when it finished, when you started to feel better, did you go for a doctor's appointment, or what did you do?
No, they don't ask us to go to the doctor. They ask us to have 3 days without any symptoms at all. And past that date, they give us a certification, or they give us a completion order, because supposedly when we're at home, it's called hospitalization. So they give us a release date according to the fact that we have had 3 days without any symptoms.
So how long was the whole ordeal?
The whole thing was 2 weeks. And, you know, towards, like, let's say a week and a half, I started feeling better and better every day. After 10 days, I did not have symptoms, but I was still feeling very weak and tired. And I really felt when people were sending me food, soup, and everything that people were sending me, I really felt that it nourished my spirit. I don't know how to say it. It really made me feel so much stronger, just thinking that someone cares for me and is preparing something for me. And I decided, you know, that's also one lesson I need to take. When I'm finished with Corona, I want to help people. I want to cook for people that are sick, like I was doing in America. And I already started doing this for my community.
That's amazing. And so how long now has it been that you've been corona-free?
Almost 2 months.
Almost 2 months. And have you seen a doctor at all during that time, or you just didn't need to?
Yes. I saw the doctor again today. Everything is good.
Everything's
Thank God.
good.
Yes.
Did he say that you have any immunity for it right now? Did he talk about that at all?
He says that he believes, 3 months, but we're not sure if it could be more or less. And they said they don't even check it, unless I would have to travel or something. 3 months is for sure what we know that is immunity.
And then what about your family? Did anybody in your family get it?
No, thank God. That's one of the biggest reasons that I was so thankful. Nobody in my family got it. I happened to see a few people before I got sick, including my mother, who is over 80, and nobody got it from me. So that was really, really a relief.
And so having gone through all of it, and you're a very God-fearing person, you're a very spiritual person, what would you like to leave the rest of us with? What would you like to tell us about it?
Well, what I want to say is like the squeezing pain that I had that was from inside my body and release and squeezing and release really reminded me so much of labor. And thank God I have 11 children, so I went to the labor many, many times. And that really reminded me and opened my eyes to the labor pain we say when Messiah will come. And I felt this is really like labor pain. I never had anything else that was as close to labor pain as this corona.
And just another question. you know, when you found out that you did have the corona, what did the doctors tell you to do? Did they give you medicine? Did they tell you what to do?
They don't give medicine. They tell you that you have to isolate yourself. And if you have pain, you take ibuprofen. And they said that they would call and check on me every single day, which they almost did. But I understand they were very overwhelmed. But they don't have any medication they give.
So when they called
as
you,
far as I know.
what? Give us an example.
Well, my friends told me I should take vitamin C, zinc, and vitamin D, and I took a lot of it. And my neighbor gave me some homeopathic drops also to take, but that's really all I took. They did not prescribe any medication that's not over the counter.
And when they called you, what did they say or ask?
Well, they were asking me if I have pain, if I have fever, if I'm taking the, ibuprofen. It was just like a follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was a little bit like supportive and caring and this kind of thing. But it wasn't really like medical orders. Actually, we're supposed to talk only to the nurse and not to the doctor.
Why?
I don't know. The nurses were taking care of the whole situation of the people sick. And the nurse was answering all the calls and directing each person, maybe this would help you a little bit, maybe that, maybe hot water, maybe this. It was really like very small things.
So overall, were you satisfied with the treatment that you got here in Israel with your health insurance?
Yeah, but there's really no treatment for someone, thank God, like in my situation, I did not need oxygen. I did not need hospitalization, just a virus. Like stay home and just take Tylenol and drink tea and, feel better.
And were you impressed that they called you every day?
Not really treatment.
Were you impressed that they call you every day, or you think it was not even needed?
Well, sometimes they call me, sometimes I call them. It was nice because you have to keep in mind you're completely isolated, so you're really on your phone a lot and WhatsApp and calling people calling, asking about you. Every interaction is really, really a nice thing to have because you're so isolated. You don't see nobody for days and days and days.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Daniela, for being with us. And thank you, everybody. Keep healthy, keep safe.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. Just click the orange button at the top of the IsraelNewsTalkRadio.home page, log in as yourself or an anonymous guest, and join in on the fun. You'll meet other listeners from all over the world who listen to Israel News Talk Radio, and you can make new friends. Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. It's the closest you can get to being in the studio with us.
We love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
If you love Israel News Talk Radio, then you'll love our Facebook page. We keep you up to date on what's happening in Israel, plus little surprise treasures that we don't share on the radio. Go now to follow us on Facebook. Just look for the Israel News Talk Radio Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us by clicking on the like button. We post great stuff there that you'll want to share. Israel News Talk Radio on Facebook and Israel News Radio on Twitter.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.